No deadline on you.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Oh, we're live. I shouldn't say that anymore.
You don't have that. 10 seconds, 11 seconds live. Wow. NunPub is streaming talk shows and podcasts. That's good to know. So, welcome everybody to the first panel of NunPub. This is our third NunPub. We've done two, and now we're doing another one. We had a game jam with Haba previously. This time we're doing a game jam with Button Shy. Woo!
Yay!
So I just want to take a moment to introduce ourselves. I'm Ben Beagle. I'm the mayor of Unpub. I'm no one of consequence. And back in the early days of the Button Shy Board Game of the Month Club, I designed some things that Jason put out because he makes poor life choices. So I'm just here to help figure out what we're gonna go through for this contest, and talk to these fine gentlemen about Button Shy and tips and tricks and all that fun nonsense. Travis.
Hey, I'm Travis Hill, and I'm here. I wasn't going to be on here until about 2 hours ago, so here I am. I in the Button Shy world, I have edited a number of the rule books, but I'm also the designer of Penny Rails, the two-player train game, stocks and shares, and route building, and kind of fun, silly things like that. I have my Button Shy shelf right there, and it's the one right above it, which is just wonderful to always have little compact games on the shelf. I've also been a fan of a lot of the 1 and 2 player stuff. I used to do low player count podcasts for a number of years, so anything 1 and 2 player always catches my interest, and Button Shy kind of ran off the mark with that early on, so just glad to be able to be here and hang out with it.
We didn't have a choice because at 18 cards, you can't have a lot of players. Usually. But I'm Jason, and I don't know. I don't have a title at Button Shy. I hate every owner, CEO, all that stuff. Owner's the closest just because I own the business. But yeah, I do Button Shy. There you go. And so do a lot of other people. So it's not just me. But I started the company years ago, and we decided to make these little tiny wallet games that kind of became a thing. And we've done one every month since 2016, and we did them a couple before that. So make a new wallet game every month and have great designers. Travis, Ben, and many others have done things for Button Shy over the years. And we have a lot of first-time designers, which is awesome. It's really cool to work with somebody who's never had a game out and kind of kick them off. Like, we've seen some people really take off since then. So that's what we do. We have a lot of flexibility in our product model and our fan base. So it's a cool, fun little gig.
So, I mean, what made you start with 18 cards?
It was actually less. Like, we decided, I gotta show you what a wallet game is like, since this is video. I found this game right here, but inside that box you can fit a little wallet game. That was my little gag that I made up. Anyway, wallet game. They're little tiny things. So we had a game. Alex Strang is a local Philly guy, friend of ours, made a game called Movie Plots that was 12 cards, and it was around the time of like Love Letter and all that stuff. And we were trying to figure out how to package a game in 18 cards, because we thought Movie Plots is cool. Love Letter was just coming out. That's cool. I think there's a lot of fun stuff in that range. So we figured out how could you package it. And the thing about 18 cards, it was a single sheet of cards. So when you print card sheets, like a 54 card game is 3 sheets of 18. So it's a good number for budgeting. So if you print 54 cards, you can make 3 games at one time, fit them all on that one sheet. So it was the cards, it was the whole Love Letter thing, it was Alex's game Movie Plots, and it was trying to find, I don't like to make as far as products go, like I love product development, but I love to develop one product and then redo it. So from the product development side, it was, we need cards, we need wallets, we need rules, we can repeat this forever and never have to, research new factories or anything like that. So from a product side, I love a line more than anything. Like making a line, it just allows you to kind of build on that and cuts out so much of the work that you go into every time you make a new game, if you're making bigger games with bits and everything like that. So yeah, it was all those. And then we kept going. That's it. 6 years later.
Yeah, so, Travis, was Penny Rails the first time you tried to design a wallet game?
Oh yes, I think so. I can't remember. I mean, because it was also my first published game as well, right? And so through that, I mean, early on in game design, you just kind of like spitball a bunch of ideas, and you have, especially early on, you have a lot of games that are in various stages of completion. And so I honestly don't know if it was my first 18 card game that I tried to design, but it was the only one that was worth anything to actually send off somewhere, is what it was. But I mean, I think I remember doing something about a record store. But I think I might be conflating that with Grant Rodiak doing the 50 card design that he was doing for a while. And I think it might have actually been that one. And then at some point I went, you know what, I wonder if I could do this in 18 cards. And I decided that I wasn't able to. And you just kind of, shift gears and go do something else.
I had been trying for a long time to make an 18 card game work.
Yeah,
and just we could never get it to work. We tried co-op, we tried drafting. There were a whole bunch of different things that, and this is back in the days that Jason, he's speaking about that first year or so. The times of pretense, the times of Cunningful, the times of, before the first contest. And it's hard to make a game that's compelling and works well with that constraint. But when it happens, like you showed Sprawlopolis, Jason, when it happens, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I feel like we've fine-tuned a lot of things over the years of what can work and what can't. Like, with your game, we were always trying 4 players, 2 to 4 players. Mm-hmm. And there was cards always set aside for extra players. You have to have enough cards for every player. And that's when we started really shifting to like 1 to 2 players, is because there's just not enough to work with. As soon as everybody has 2 cards in hand, you've got half the deck taken up in a 4-player game.
That's more party game-ish.
Sure, like where everybody has one thing.
North Southeast Quest or Invino.
Yep,
or,
anything like that.
Wildcats. There are those games, and even Pretense.
Yeah.
Where you're not holding anything. It works well. Yeah. And I think it's Nat Levan has a joke that he would always tell that, making an 18 card game's easy. I'll set up a 3x3 grid. That's 9 cards. We got 1 card. We got 1 card. That's it's the helper. It's the player aid. It tells you, walks you through the steps, walks you through points at the end. And that leaves us with 2 cards each. Each player just has 2 cards. One's a character and one's something they do. This isn't hard. I got this, until you actually try to do it.
Yeah, those cards fill up fast. Like you have to figure out either how to take the game out of the cards with any kind of like social kind of gaming, or everybody leans to first use both sides. Both sides is almost every game we have now, which is a pain from the production side, because you got to line those all up. And like when we have a game with just common backs, it's great. Hit and print, and it's super easy. But using both sides of the cards, multi-use, all that, but without going overboard, because as soon as you do too much of that, it feels like an 18-card mess where you're just trying to cram a game that should be bigger into 18 cards. So there's this fine spot that's hard to find, yet we keep seeing it month after month after month.
Hard to find. You've done like 80.
I know, but I've seen like 600 that don't work. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, there's a lot. It's easy to go overboard with it. It's easy to try to cram way too much into 18 cards, and it's easy to make nothing, like a 1-note game that has nothing to do. So
I remember telling a designer once that their game felt like it was being disserviced by being 18 cards. It should have a board. It should have some bits, and they did a great job distilling it down, but it felt like the experience wanted more presence.
I tell them, let the game take it where, no reason to stick with 18 if it feels like it's bigger anyway, because it's not going to be a good 18 card game.
So we're having a game jam where we're inviting, anybody out there in the world to design an 18 card game. And we're going to put some restrictions on it. And that's kind of what we're here to talk about, amongst some other things. We've got in the NunPub Discord, which, we'll get a link out to everybody that needs it. We can get an invite out to you. We have some channels set aside for game jam. So if you're working remotely with a team, you can use the voice and the video there to work on your game. We actually have a Google form that's been posted there as well, so that you can submit your game idea at the end of this, because come Sunday afternoon, Jason and I and possibly a couple others are going to look at those pitches. Maybe it's a sell sheet, but just those ideas about what you've come up with and give some feedback on it. That's kind of the ideas that can help you, take it to the next level, take it to the next step. The idea here isn't to necessarily have a fully fledged game. It's to, give you a jump start, give you something that maybe can turn into something else. It's, it's the next level of pitch tag, if you will.
Yeah.
So, have you participated in game jams before, Travis?
Yeah, I have. I've done some game jams before, but I was also going to comment on the fact that Penny Rails began as just one of the Button Shy game design months, right? And so, that's what that's what I love most about what Button Shy does, is that you host these design competitions just to see what's out there, and you put interesting restrictions on there, and you just say, hey, this is how this is going to start, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, that's how Penny Rail started, and that's where I think a lot of really good and interesting titles through Button Shy have come out from.
We've never had more entries. That 18 cards but is the key to, I think, getting creativity going. So our one challenge was 18 cards, but all 18 cards need to be identical. And it was just like, this is stupid. Like, nobody's going to be able to come up with a game for this. It's absolutely undoable, right? So nobody can do it. 18 cards, but they're all identical.
Played well at Designer Diner. It played great at Designer Diner.
229 submissions, and there were really good games in there. Because, and my pitch to it was like, you have 18 ace of spades. What is your game with that? Like, what do? You throw them? Like, what can you do? And I really expected to get 20 entries and them all just be silly. And there were really good games in there. It was wild. And that extra restriction, if we go 18 cards, but it's about, a city, or something outdoors or something like that, we'll get a good amount of entries and we'll get some good games. But if we go 18 cards, but, they all have to say the same, whatever. If we go extreme with the restriction, people go wild with it. So it's great to have that 18 cards but, and I have a whole bunch of them listed that we can always use. Right now it's 18 cards, but it's a role-playing game, and 18 cards, but legacy.
It's so to answer some questions in the Twitch chat. This is an over the weekend thing. Like I mentioned, we're gonna review whatever submissions people have, idea submissions people have sent in by Sunday. We're gonna have a panel Sunday afternoon. This is different than the RPG challenge. That is a separate contest that Button Shy is running now. Jason, can you give more information on that one?
Okay.
We're still talking about contests.
So we've done these sort of every other month contests, and the current one is 18 cards but role-playing game with some extra, not restrictions, but just there are some extra restrictions. You can use some dice, you can use a sheet of paper and things like that, but we gave some little nudges, like try to make it a little tabletop, a little role-playing, try to see what you can do to make the most out of the 18 cards. There's tiny role-playing games out there, but none of them have cards to them, specifically these 18 cards. So what can you do with them to make it interesting? And I think the games that'll do the best in the challenge are the ones that do something interesting with the card play. I'm not sure. There's gonna be games that blow me away that don't. But that's kind of the hook that I'm thinking, is just what can you do with cards that you couldn't do if you didn't have them? So it runs through. It was May and June. At the end of June, entries are due. and then we review them, pick a winner. I think the winner gets paid. I don't remember if it's $100 or more than that. And then we always find a lot of games out of those contests. We wind up publishing people. To me, it's the coolest way to sign games because one, it gets everybody inspired to make games that they can go and do whatever they want with if they're not published. So it's a short window of just creative
Jason
inspiration.
Greeno's spending your money out here in the chat. He says it's $1,000.
Oh, all right. Well, tell him he's disqualified so he can we can bring that back down. It's good for the designers. For us, it's a way that we can see really cool games that we kind of mold a little bit. So we want this weird, role-playing game, but 18 cards. And then the third thing that's cool is I have a team of people, Ben's been on there before, people that judge these and help validate the better games because I see games and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then like Nat Levan will be like, no, that's not, you're wrong. So it's cool to have this whole team of people together to check out games together. We get to play them, Signer Diner and all that fun
Vino
stuff.
Morte exists because
Somebody suggested it.
coming to one of those events saying, hey, how come nobody picked this one? And forcing us to play it right there at a finals judging.
So it's a bunch of things. It's creativity and getting new games out there, meeting new designers. So many first-time designers in our contests, which is awesome.
It is. So it's just what we're going to do is we're going to throw some restrictions out there. Everybody's got a D6. Travis, I know you have one.
I do.
Did you get one, Jason?
No.
We can roll for you. We got 4 rolls total, so we can each roll twice.
I have a bunch of Lego. I'm trying to find one.
All right. So we put together some restriction ideas. We're going to roll 4 dice, and those are going to help. Like Jason said, we want to mold the contest, or like he's molded contests in the past. We want to mold this game jam, kind of give some people some training wheels, give designers a push in one direction, possibly. So we're going to go through those now.
I found one in my little.
All right.
Toolbox of risk men.
Take 2 of those daily with food.
Yeah. This
All
is
right, so Jason, why don't you roll first? And we're rolling D6s. So for this first roll, if Jason rolls a 1, your game must somehow involve food. It could just be food themed. It could have food in it on the cards. Who knows? If he rolls a 2, you must include history. 3, it must include space.
Just like
4, it must include something hidden. Who knows how you interpret that? 5, it must include animals. And a 6 means that it must that there's no restriction on this one. So Jason, why don't you go ahead and roll and let us know what you get?
How am I going to do this? I'm going to roll it into my hand.
You don't have to roll. No, you can just roll it. We trust you.
All right. Well, it's a 3.
No shenanigans at the
find my
Button Shot
camera.
Game Jam kickoff.
It's a 3.
It's a 3.
It's a 3.
All right.
It's
So the game must
space.
include space.
All right. Greeno's back in because that's his thing.
All right. You're allowing him back in?
I guess so. I mean, he's going to insist on being back in. We just sucked him in, is what I mean.
Okay. All right. I gotta make sure I make this note here so that
You remember what we
so I
did?
remember when I reported all. Yeah. So there we go. All right. So now, Travis,
Just bold it. Look at that.
that's my keyboard is up here behind this laptop screen. Sorry.
I'm ready.
Now for Travis, you're going to roll for restriction 2. So for restriction 2, if Travis rolls a 1, some of the cards must be used horizontal. If he rolls a 2, there's no shuffling in the game at all.
Mm-mm.
For a 3, some of the cards must make a map. For 4, it's going to be 1 versus many. I mean, that's a co-op if the game is the 1. 5 means it's going to be a minimum of a 3-player game, and 6 means no restriction. Let's see what we got, Travis.
Here we go. It's a 1. Cards must be horizontal.
All right, so some of the cards must be horizontal in their use.
In space.
All right.
Here, I'll do this.
In
I'll do it.
space.
I'll do it for you.
I appreciate it.
Of course.
So I'm going to roll the 3rd. For this one, here's your restriction, your potential restrictions. A 1 is that you must mutilate at least one card. Jason loves mutilation, so we're leaving it in there. A roll of
not
2.
card mutilation, just like animals and
Number 2 is no 3x3 grid. You can't have a 3x3 grid in your game. Go 4x2 instead. You'll save yourself a card. Number 3, there can be no talking in the game. Number 4, you must use somewhere in the game non-English words. Number 5, the game cannot have characters. And if I roll a 6, it's going to be no restriction.
So real quick, to clarify, characters, you don't mean like text characters, you mean people.
I mean like you're not embodying someone else as an avatar.
I read that as text first, and I was
that could be interesting too. It's however you interpret these things.
There you go.
Because space could be the space between cards on a table.
Sure.
It doesn't mean that it's outer space. All right, and we rolled a 2. No 3x3 grid. All right, and we added a 4th roll because sometimes you want to have you want to use something that isn't cards. And Jason, you've run a couple contests that have allowed for non-card things in them. So for this game jam, we thought it might be fun to do that. So Jason's going to roll his d6 again, and this is going to determine the total number of non-card elements you're allowed to use. If he rolls a 3, it could be 3 meeples. It could be one of 3 different things.
I didn't see this. This is fun. All right. Here we go. I'm rolling in my hand again.
All right.
Oh, it's 6.
All right. We got a 6. Damn. So you can use 6 non-card items within your game, whatever those might be. So to name off those restrictions again, the game must include space. Cards must be horizontal, no 3x3 grid, and you can use 6 non-card elements. You're allowed to use up to 6 non-card elements in the game. So
that's fun.
Yeah, that is fun.
So what do you both think about those restrictions?
So
anything
I think
pop into your head?
Like as far as game-wise?
Game-wise, or like
cards,
you said, interesting ways to interpret character.
I think space and horizon and width. Width of the horizon of the sky, width of a ship, width of whatever. I just think about those horizontal cards and getting some of that vast width into the game, and not a 3x3 grid.
Okay, so the stuff could be stuff that it could be poker chips. It could be a cheese grater for all we know. If you find a way to include that in your game, it could be.
You didn't roll to mutilate a card. You didn't roll a 1.
We didn't say you couldn't mutilate a card, though.
Guess how many of these things I have in here? I think there might be 6.
So it's just you could just any 6 things. Like you can use up to 6 individual items.
But you don't have to.
No, you don't have to.
You just can.
You're given that extra little pleasure of 6 items.
Travis,
your choice.
Sarah has a question in the chat. Can you roll a d6 for me?
Oh, yes, I can. Here we go.
All right.
It's a 1.
So the length on the rules is 1 8.5 by 11 page. I don't care what size that font is. It can be the smallest font with the narrowest margins, but 1 page because the dice said so.
Everyone reading or listening, don't ask any more questions or you're going to get more restrictions. So good.
To give you an idea, the typical button shy, rules are typically what, like 2.5 pages, like in a Google Doc.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like 4 cards front and back.
Yeah. If you we have a Google Doc with the margins and everything that's like perfect to it. But you can get a lot into a page. You can get a lot into a page. You've got some cards if you want to set aside a couple cards to go into further detail. I think you can get a lot into a page. It's a weekend thing,
Yeah.
It keeps it nice and light.
Yeah, I mean, the idea isn't to necessarily have a finished thing. It's to have a thing or a start. It's a jump start. It's a jam. It's It's the next step beyond. But going back to some of the restrictions, what do you think about, Travis? You were mentioning being horizontal and having space and some of those things.
Yeah, I mean it's good. I mean, I like I like the fact that you don't have that. There's not a 3x3 grid, and I think the main reason why is because there are. Like I love the idea of a single stack of cards that you're going through. That it's just a stack, right? And like you just have like the deck of cards that of all 18 of them are just face up in front of you. And I think of them horizontally. Something about space. There's an interesting way that cards can be splayed next to one another while you go through. You're shuffling underneath. I mean, they're just. And especially with a couple of non-card elements, there's just kind of some fun things that you can toss in there. I already have ideas, and I don't even know if I'm going to participate in this. I don't know if I can, but I have ideas.
It's not a contest. It's just a jam. It's
a contest. I'm winning.
There's something really interesting about horizontal cards, though, is that you usually don't have hands. Like that's not the kind of thing that you'll splay in your hand.
Yeah.
So it sort of takes the gameplay onto the table, which it's interesting. It's a little different.
It was actually a potential restriction you added to the doc, Jason. Have you seen it in other games, or is it something you're trying to pull off?
Horizontal?
Yeah.
It just seemed to me like it was against the norm. The norm, you would always lay your cards out, vertically. You think of any kind of game where you're, with numbers or, anything on the sides, that vertical card layout, like the Magic layout or any of this, it's so expected. So it was just to kind of throw people off that expectation and see where it like leads to design choices. Because of the, not in your hands and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Is it
not that you can't play in your hand? It's just.
Do you look at Sprawlopolis and Circle the Wagons? Do you see and Agropolis? Do you see those as vertical or horizontal when you're laying them down? So, how do you see the map laid out in your head?
I will tell you. So the thing that makes the answer. So because the backs are horizontal. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's no question that it should be.
So that's you have an example of horizontal use of cards.
Exactly. Yeah. You can overlay your cards. Now I'll see people who play it like this, and I'm just like, "Whoa, that's weird." Like, what made you decide to do that? But like a narrow table or things like that, and they have these on the side, and they got this narrow thing in the middle, which is neat. It can go either way, but I would never even twist this card. Never going to happen.
No. So to answer some questions, we do have a separate section in the NunPub Discord that we can, if you're on the Button Shy Discord, we'll link an invite over there. I believe one is already
I can post it now.
Jason can post another one right now. We have a whole section with some channels for this. We'll post the form for the submission just so we can hopefully we get some entries that sound interesting that we can give feedback on Sunday. All of that will be in the NunPub Discord. So Jason is posting that now. I need to post it to over here too. Give me a second. I will post it in the Twitch chat.
Is that 3 really in the NunPub?
Yeah, well, because it's NunPub 3.
Oh, yeah, got it.
Yeah, so we did NunPub back in August. We did a NunPub Winter 21 in January. So this is NunPub 3 because we make poor life choices.
No.
It's just the way that it's come out for us. So I do this, and I will do this and hit chat. And I actually have to log into Twitch. That's gonna be fun. All right, we'll make sure that we get that in there. Where am I logging into Twitch?
We Are Games said they missed the rules.
So all right, yeah, those will be posted as well.
Should we repeat them real quick?
Yep, let's repeat them while I get this link sent.
It must have space in any way that you want space to be. What's that?
That is autoplay.
So space is one of them. The second is cards must be horizontal. The third one is that it can't have a 3x3 grid, and then it can use up to 6 items that are not cards in the game. 6 of anything you'd like, individual items. Was that Justin Bieber we just heard?
Individual items.
It must have been.
Need
Is Justin Bieber at your house, Ben?
No, I just need to mute.
Justin
I
Bieber?
don't have my TV muted, so when I'm logging in to do all this fun stuff.
And then 1 page of rules. Oh, yeah. Greenwood just got that.
There we go. There's the Discord link. Woo! I'm bona fide. So we lean this forward so I don't look at myself through the Button Shot Game Jam kickoff banner.
Rules only 1 page long. That's right.
Yeah, well, 1 8.5 by 11 page. We don't care about size of font or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we'll post all of that in the Discord, so it'll be there for everybody as well.
I love rules only 1 page. That's just like, we're going to review these games. We're going to get right to the essence of it. Like, as a designer, it makes you cut everything, and I think that's fun.
That's a challenge. Going to send it in 5-point font, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or there's going to be comments, and in the comments are going to be the rest of the rules. Like, they're going to find a way around it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what game designers do is game the system.
When we launch a contest, my whole first day is everybody finding loopholes and me repeating that we're not looking for the games to find the loopholes. Like, the whole point of this is we fine-tune everything to what we want. If you're looking for loopholes, it's not going to win you the contest. And designers want the loopholes. As a designer, I want to go, what does space mean that isn't outer space, know?
Because you want to feel clever.
We all want to do that, and I have to fight that the first day. It's hilarious. It's actually a lot of fun, but it's so much of it.
So, I think these are interesting restrictions, and we'll see what we can get Sunday. Again, Sunday, 3 p.m. is when the panel's going to start. We're asking for the submissions in whatever state it is. You could just send us ideas. You could just write up a paragraph of, here's my idea, and maybe it works. Because I know of games that Jason has published that were not play tested before submission.
Yeah,
I can say that the designer freely admits it. So that they were kind of doing stream of conscience, and sometimes that's all you need. And then you can take that, and maybe your idea doesn't work in this small format, but you can embiggen it. You can make it, fit in a VHS box, that somebody stole from Blockbuster, or a CD case. There's all sorts of options that could come out of this. The idea is just to get your creative juices flowing in some way.
So Sarah said, do you still want an 18-card game? So here, yes, 18 cards plus six extra items of your choice.
Yeah, plus up to 6 extra items.
Yep.
So, so that's what we're looking for. This is an 18-card game challenge or game jam. There's some extra things that can be thrown in, and there's restrictions around it. So, where do you think you'd go with some of these restrictions, Travis?
I would.
A train.
A train. I'm pretty binary. It's either RPGs or trains, really.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of a fun space to play in. No, honestly, probably I would I think back to, and I don't know if this would be cheating, but I think back to another 18-card game that I'd been tinkering with years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, about trying to get out of bed on time.
I remember that.
It was just a little solo game that you're hitting a snooze button, and I'm like, it could very easily be inverted to get out of a spaceship that's about to explode on time. And so I automatically go, hey, there's kind of some fun little solo hand management stuff. Making the cards horizontal, that's easy to do.
Horizontal card is just a train. It's just a train car.
It is.
I'm not going to make a train game. Okay, do enough of those.
Isn't the space shuttle just a space locomotive?
Space train,
space cargo. But yeah, I think if I were to, I would probably do something along those lines of especially if I haven't designed anything before. I would try and make I would make a low player count game. You don't have a restriction of a minimum of 3 players. No. We've been dead for a couple of years.
It's a game about a podcast.
Go check out our defunct podcast that the URL doesn't even work for anymore. That I shut down the Twitter account. I'll send you a sticker that don't exist. But no, I seriously though, I'd probably do something that is a low player count, that is 1 or 2 players. Unless, which this is a button check game that just totally flies under the radar that I absolutely love, is That Snow Moon. Just because team versus team, you're throwing cards out on the table. Oh gosh, I love that. I think that is just genius. Is what that one is. But all that being said, I would more than likely just stick with like a 1 or a 2 player game, something that is just a small thing that you can just kind of figure out on your own. Once again, some people might actually put something together in card format over the weekend. It's totally possible to do. But yeah, I don't know, just find something that you're comfortable with, and then take that comfort that you have and impose restrictions on top of that, right? Find mechanics, ideas, feelings that you like already. If you like games that involve cards as currency, then use the cards as currency and just kind of go from there, and then see, okay, I like cards that's hand management and I have to buy something with cards. What would that look like in 18 cards? Okay, do that. Or now that you can get up to 6 different items, what are those 6 items? Maybe it is just a die. Okay, that die could be a counter for whatever it is that you're doing. There's actually a lot to work with in this, especially with those 6 individual objects. You could make all sorts of wild stuff.
Yes,
I think those 6 objects opened it up.
Yeah,
but also I think you're going to find some people that are participating that get hung up on what those 6 items are.
Yeah,
instead of maybe using them as a condiment, they're going to try to make them the main dish.
I'm already restricting myself to 6 cubes of the same color. Is because to me 6 items is just like, that's huge. We could make a million different games with that. So here's my idea, and it's the designer nonsense, is trying to think of negative space. What do you what is negative space in games? But like I said, like that, I'm using Sprawl's cards, but like having
that asks
the game's already been
more
made.
Things and these 6 more cards.
They should not be cards, right? So it's an 18 card challenge. I don't think they should be cards. In the spirit of the thing,
they should not be cards. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So cards being one side on your tabletop is your width of space, like your vast space, and then I want to see cards on top, like blocking stuff out, leaving little slivers of space that you can see, and these can move around freely until someone plays their little cubes on them and like locks them in. Now this one's locked, so we're kind of dealing with this. It's these little. I can't see it there. This is the negative space that I want. This is how you play the game and where all the magic happens, and these are covering them up. So that's my little width of space. So
I want somebody to troll the restrictions and make a 3x3 grid without the center card, or make a 3x3 grid with one of the outside cards just not there, because then it's not a grid. And try to I think there's some space to troll the contest. Some people in the chat have mentioned figuring out how to troll it.
It's funny because I don't think 3x3 grid, no 3x3 grid, isn't going to kill anyone's idea. But what it does is it kills that thing that you go to. You have 18 cards. For some reason, the first thing you do is you line up a 3x3 grid. So
there are some great 3x3 grid card games out there.
I agree. I love some of them. I've made some, and I love them. But it is an easy thing to get hooked on. It is easy to get hooked on that early on. So I don't think it's going to hurt anybody, but I do think it does make you think a little more.
It frees up, like you said, using cards as currency. Because they're the big element in the game. If you've taken half of it away, you've really just tied an arm behind your back.
Yeah. It's funny because 3x3 grid games, a lot of them are, let me set up the grid, we're going to manipulate the grid, and then see who won or score. And I try to tell everybody in a lot of our contests, don't make a game that's set up the grid and then swap, flip, rotate, or twist, and that's your only actions. And then we change the grid, and then we're done the game. I said it's kind of puzzly, and it's kind of hard to kind of break any ground in that, and it becomes very one note. And we set this up, and then we just manipulate it, and then we're done. So I try to avoid that and say that in a lot of our contests. Looks at Food Chain Island. Food Chain Island does that in a different way, though, and it did break through. It definitely broke through in that the grid disappears as you go. So it's possible, and it definitely is possible, but it's not all just swap and flip and rotate, and then we're looking at the grid at the end. We've gotten so many of those. We've published some, but we've gotten so many of those, and hopefully this avoids that.
I'm going to do a 6x3 grid.
There you go.
Just every card.
All 18, swap them, flip them, score.
All 18, swap them, flip them. It's all space themed.
I'm going to do 3x6, but I'm going to stair step them. So they're off, so I've got a nice long diagonal line.
All right, so someone's getting towards silly o'clock in the morning. Oh, JMLA. Wondering on info on the jam.
It'll be posted as soon as this panel's over. We'll be posting all of the restrictions and the additional information within the non-pub Button Shy Game Jam channels, and also Jason can post it in the Button Shy Discord as well.
Mostly just space, horizontal cards, no grid.
Yep. 6 extra things.
1-page rules.
Yep.
Sleep on that. Get some good games in your sleep.
Yep. Get some sleep. Come back with ideas. It'll be great. What's one of your wishes? Like, if you could, what's your holy grail, Jason?
In finding a game?
In an 18-card game, what's something that you haven't done?
In anything. What is your holy
anything? Anything ever. Theme-wise, mechanisms, style, feeling.
It's funny because I keep putting out these contests and making them. So it's I want to see 18-card role playing as the thing. So we've made this contest. But the one that is really just happening is a fighting game in the style of Summoner Wars or Unmatched. That's cards only and good, because fighting is hard. Fighting's an impossible sell. Fighting is an impossible thing to play as usually 2-player. You're playing, with your partner, or, usually someone that you're not fighting with. Fighting is aggressive. It's a hard thing for 2-player outside of Magic the Gathering and a game store and things like that. And nobody's playing a tiny little card game in that sense. So I've always wanted a fighting game that's excellent and cards only. And we tapped a couple of Button Shy designers to make it, and they've been making it, and it's awesome. It hits exactly what I want.
Would you consider some of the simultaneous reveal games that have come out from Button Shy to be fighting? I mean, like Superplex or Tag Team?
Yes, but they're not that. So this is like tactical,
more tactical combat.
Tactical combat. So we've had competitive, even fighting themed and tag team and stuff like that. Superplexes, wrestling, it's straight up fighting. But this is more of that, that cards on the table, Summoner Wars, moving around, ranged fight, attacks and things like that. It's a really hard genre to hit without minis. People want minis for those kind of games and things like that. And I wanted to see it made in cards only and good. I've seen it made in cards only and not good many times. Way too long rules and way too much stuff going on. And even with cards only, how do you track stuff? But we've been working on it for a while. So I'm excited that that's the one that is going to be my favorite Button Shy game to play. I love to play Universal Rule because it's a big space, combat thing. It's a big brawler, but in such tiny cards, but it has a million components. Each player needs to bring 25 bits with coins or whatever it is. But that's the kind of game that I love. I love Cosmic Encounter. So a big game where you can have multiple winners and things like that. It's cool to see that in 18 cards. And this is seeing Unmatched or Summoner Wars in 18 cards. And those are fun.
it takes you back to some of the stuff we were trying with Flip Force that we could just never get off the ground because it became like it became really janky trying to figure out some of the stuff. But
it is because like how do you
using
track
cards
stuff?
as minis essentially for that?
You always have stuff to track in those kind of games. There's always health and things like that, and you run out of cards. You run out of cards quickly.
So now somebody needs with these 6 extra non-card components, you can make a lightsaber duel very easily with horizontal cards at Space Stadium.
6 components right here. I got.
That's what I'm saying. You could track some of that stuff. I mean, just go for it. Run.
Not
Jason,
quite a lightsaber, but
does the Lego Daily Bugle count as one component, or does each piece count as its own?
Oh my god! It came with 25 minifigures. It is amazing. It is so good. I will just pull up just the top to share, just the top because I know I'll break it. But it's just the top part. That counts as one.
That counts as one. Okay. No,
I did drop it.
You mentioned that, and we heard Travis earlier mention That Snow Moon, and I think that's one of the interesting things that some people have tried is what's the feeling you get from that big, huge game that takes up half your calyx, and how can you distill that down? And That Snow Moon did it.
How do you find the essence of it? That's exactly what it
Universal Rule does it. It takes that big game and kind of condenses it down and gets the essence and gets that feel and takes out a lot of the components. And I think there's a lot of space for that. Like, and that's what I meant is like where, Summoner Wars, I guess, is a great example. Then using that is you want that feeling without.
Yeah. Summoner Wars needs the map. It needs the health cat. It actually uses dice. It has a decent sized deck. And how do you get that down? And like Unmatched has the amazing little figures and
the individual boards that you might be playing on.
Boards and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So they figured it out. It's been a lot of development, but that hits my spot of something I want. I don't know what else. Like it's weird. Like role playing is the next thing that I feel like is way different than anything we've done. But what I know I don't want is more of the same. We get a lot of submissions for like Sprawlopolis clones. And like we've got that, and if we're going to make a Sprawlopolis clone, we're going to make it with the team as the next game in the line. Like we're not going to make these other ones. So it's hard. I kind of want something just that I've never seen. That's where we're at. Is kind of looking for something fresh and different in 18 cards, and it's there. Keep seeing it, which is cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's something you'd like to see in a wallet game or an experience you'd like in something that size, Travis? Something you can just throw in your bag like that, or throw in your pocket. And
I would love an economic game like a
CCMF.
Kind of like the feel of like a heavy, crunchy, not and whenever I say economic game, I don't mean resource conversion, right? Because that's where a lot of people, they'll just sit there and be like, well, this is a heavy euro. But the heavy euros, it's always about getting this building that converts this lesser resource into this resource, and that, like, that's not what I want. I want
and that's coming out next month from us. That one,
which those are good, but that's once again, it's a thing that just hasn't been. I want to see an economic game. I want to see, like, obviously I default to train games, right? But whenever I think of something like Age of Steam, I think of a game that is forcing you to make choices that are not necessarily the best for you, so that you can maintain a standard of living, right? You're able to maintain money. You're able to, and then at the end of it, the only thing that matters is, which is not how Age of Steam works, but at the end of the game, all that matters is the amount of money that you have. I think of something like Brass, to a degree has that. Some of those in the 18xx game, right? Something like that. But it doesn't have to necessarily be a train game, but I would love to see an economic something of some sort. You're spending money to do this, like whenever Food Chain Island came out, I immediately thought, oh, Food Chain Magnet from Spot, which I know is a little bit of the joke, but I was like, oh, that's kind of that's not that though. But what would that look like in in an 18 card game? What would
the
something
hardest
that
thing with
involve,
that is just no bits. Like,
Yeah,
like
totally, is
what
money.
the money. Like the money is your cards, and they need very, very multi-use that can't get, that just can't take it to the point where it's unplayable.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. That's the tricky part about it.
That's what Penny Rails needed, the contest that allowed for extra bits, because it still needs its money.
That's So I don't know. I would love to see kind of a crunchy. And whenever I say crunchy, I mean you have a decision that you have to make that you don't want to make, but it's the best decision for you, and it's going to cost you money. Because typically in resource in whenever I think of like big box Euro games, right? That engine that you're creating is you're just trading in resources for this and this, that, and whatever. If you were trading in points in the game to create stuff, that's where people like a lot of Euro designers don't want to do that. No, we don't know, because getting points, that's the fun of the game. Yeah, of course it is. But in economic games, your money is your points, and you have to spend that to be able to do the other stuff. And so, but once you, as you said, that's 4, depending on the number of players, that's at least 2 cards per player.
It goes
to be
quick.
able to, and it goes, and then there are your 8 cards. And then what do you got? 10 cards left? What are you doing with those 10 cards? No.
Well, my son came up with I think he was like 7 at the time, a really cool way to track 2 values with 2 cards. And it was essentially like, if you had the card, let's just do it this way. So if you had like, down here was like 1 through 5, and then down here was 1 through 5, and then you could move this way up, and you could do two tracks at once with 2 cards. And then there was a third thing that I added to it where you could flip this one and it had something different on the back, so it was a third thing.
Nat Levan did that with Iceberg.
Oh, did he?
His game, the way that when I last played it, and again years and years ago, is he had 3 resources, but you could only have 2 at any time. And you were able to convert them by flipping the card over. So you only needed to track. You had some bits to track, but you only had access to 2 of the resources. And one of the actions was actually to convert them by flipping the card into a different.
And there's only so much that people will put up with that.
Yeah,
that's why 1 and 2 players work so well. Like, it's really hard to convince 4 players to do this, like, sort of fiddly like tracking and stuff like that. When look at all the other games that they could play that are bigger, glossier, and have better bits and all. But you have 2 people or even solo, like those things fly and work out well because you can lean on the portability and the form factor and everything.
So
we could do that just 1 to 2 players, Travis. Crunchy decisions, but just the 2 of us.
All right, Travis. Now figure out 1 player brass. 1 player 18xx games.
There's somebody on BGG that's already made that variant.
But do it in 18 cards.
I figure out something.
And Tagmeyer will beat a path to your door.
Travis has the open door whenever he wants it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So to reiterate for everybody, again, we're running with the support of Button Shy. We're running this game jam over the course of the Non-Pub weekend here through Sunday. We have the Discord channel link is in the chat, which is over here this time, over there ish. I don't know. I'm looking at different screens now. We're gonna, after this is over, we'll be posting the restrictions and some additional information there. Those restrictions are that the game must include space. The cards must be horizontal. You cannot use a 3x3 grid, and you're allowed to use up to 6 additional things that are not cards. So that thing can't be a greeting card. It can't be a business card. You can't say, oh, it's not a playing card, so it's not a different card. No, cannot be cards at all. And you are allowed 1 8.5 by 11 sheet for your rules. There will also be a submission form in there to submit whatever you come up with between now and about 2 o'clock on Sunday. And then at 3 o'clock, Jason, myself, and whoever else we can get are just going to look through some of those submissions and kind of give feedback on them from there. So, we're really excited about this. I think it's a cool idea. And, yeah, I think it's a nice group of restrictions that we've got within that 18-card game space. So,
did I disappear from yours?
I see you, but you're broken.
You're frozen.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, Travis, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and who you are again?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm Travis Hill. You can find me probably the best place and easiest place to find me is on the Twitterverse. I spend far too much time there. You can find me at Travis D. Hill, and you can follow my rantings about coffee, animals, trains, and RPGs, and that's about it.
Presspot Games.
And Presspot Games, yeah. I mean, I am Presspot Games. That's it. Presspot Games is my moniker for all of the silly little stuff that I put out. It's also the name I use for rulebook design, and it's just that's just what it is.
Awesome.
Really, it's just me, and so it's just kind of it's kind of strange to be like, hey.
But you put out some RPGs and some journaling stuff, and so there's stuff there for people to find.
Yes, presspot.games. You can go there and you can find me.
Jason, are you still with us, at least audio-wise?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, it's weird. I can hear everyone. Okay, so buttonshygames.com. That's kind of where you find everything for us. Our Discord is the coolest. If I can't really find a link to that, links are weird for Discord, but you can find it. It's a really cool community. And Twitter, Buttonshy, and all that stuff.
And I'm Ben Beagle. I'm the mayor of Unpub. I designed some stuff that Jason made poor life choices and published. I'm known of consequence, but I can be found online at Some Fat Kid. That's SUM Fat Kid. If you're lucky, maybe 1-800-BEN works. But we look forward Sunday to seeing what all of you have come up with. So this video will be on YouTube after this weekend, so people can view it after the fact. Maybe it'll jumpstart something even after the game jam's over. But everybody be safe. Have a great night.
Good
Go
luck.
Nunpub.
See ya.